Part 1. The Warning Ignored. Admiral walked slowly into the Grand Council chamber. His 4 arms were behind his back. His silver scales shone under the bright lights. He had lived for 300 years. He had fought in more wars than he could count. But today, he felt afraid. The council members sat in a half-circle before him. There were 9 of them. They were the leaders of the Helix Dominion. They controlled 100 star systems and billions of people. They thought they were the most powerful beings in the galaxy. Knew better. Counselor was the first to speak. He was tall with the body of an insect. His many eyes looked at with impatience. Admiral, you called this meeting. You said it was urgent, so speak. Took a deep breath. I am here to warn you, do not attack the humans. The chamber went quiet. Then slowly, some of the council members began to laugh, made a clicking sound that showed his amusement. The humans, said, you want us to fear the humans. They are children. They have been in space for only 500 years. Their fleet is small. Their worlds are few. Why should we fear them? Did not smile, because I have seen what they can do. He walked to the center of the room. A hologram appeared above him. It showed a ship. The ship was not a warship. It was a colony ship. It was carrying families, children, regular people looking for a new home. 6 months ago, said, my patrol fleet found this ship near the Expanse. It was in our territory without permission. I sent 3 cruisers to capture it. The hologram changed. It now showed the battle. The human ship was surrounded. There was no way out. I gave them a chance to surrender, continued. I told them they would not be harmed. I told them we would simply take them back to their space and let them go. And asked, did they surrender? No, his voice was heavy. The captain sent me a message. She said her name was. She said she would rather die than let her people become prisoners. The hologram showed what happened next. The human ship turned. It aimed itself at the largest cruiser, and then it accelerated. She rammed us, said. A civilian ship full of families crashed into my cruiser at full speed. 400 of my soldiers died. 200 humans died. And do you know what the last thing I heard from that captain was? No one answered. She was laughing, said. She knew she was going to die. She knew her people were going to die, and she was laughing because she was taking us with her. The chamber was silent. Counselor Meth, an old female with scales, spoke softly. One captain does not represent an entire species. Perhaps she was mad. That is what I thought, said. So I began to study the humans. I read their history. I watched their wars, and I learned something that terrified me. He changed the hologram again. It showed images from human history, wars, battles, soldiers fighting in mud and snow and fire. The humans have been fighting since the beginning of their existence, said. They fight each other constantly, nation against nation, brother against brother. They have weapons that can destroy their own planet, and they have almost used them several times. This proves they are primitive, said. Savage, unworthy of our concern. No, said firmly. This proves they are dangerous. They do not fight like us. We fight to win. We fight for land, for resources, for power. When we cannot win, we surrender. This is logical. This is smart. He pointed at the human images. Humans do not surrender. They fight when they cannot win. They fight when there is nothing to gain. They fight when fighting means death. And worst of all, they fight to make sure that even if they lose, their enemy loses too. Turn to face the council directly. I have conquered 17 species. I have broken empires. I have burned worlds. But I am telling you, as someone who has dedicated his life to war, do not fight the humans. They are not like us. They do not think like us. And they will not stop until one side is completely destroyed. Stood up, his many legs clicked on the floor. Admiral, you have served the Dominion well, but you are old. Perhaps fear has found its way into your heart. The humans are weak. Their fleet is nothing compared to ours. Their worlds are rich with resources we need. The Council has already decided. We will take what is ours. Looked at each council member in turn. You will regret this. The vote is called, announced. All in favor of the conquest of human border worlds. 7 hands went up. All opposed. Only raised his hand, and one other, Counselor Meth, who looked at with sad eyes. The motion passes, said. The war begins in 30 days. Walked out of the chamber without another word. Behind him, he heard the council members talking excitedly about the easy victory ahead, about the wealth they would gain, about how quickly the humans would fall. Knew the truth. He had seen it in the eyes of that laughing captain. The humans would not fall. They would burn, and they would make sure the Dominion burned with them. The only question was how many would die before the council understood what already knew. Some species fight to live. Humans live to fight. Part 2, First Blood at Myra 7. Commander was sleeping when the alarm went off. The sound was loud and sharp. She jumped out of bed and grabbed her uniform. Her heart was beating fast. She ran to the bridge of her ship, the Unbroken. Her crew was already there. They looked scared. She could not blame them. Report, she said as she sat in her chair. Lieutenant turned to face her. He was young, maybe 25 years old. His hands were shaking, but his voice was steady. 17 Helix warships just appeared above Myra 7. They came out of fold space 10 minutes ago. Looked at the screen. She could see the enemy ships. They were big, much bigger than her small frigates. Each one could probably destroy her entire fleet alone. How many ships do we have? She asked. 4, Commander. The Unbroken, the Dauntless, the Torch, and the Hammer. 4 against 17. Almost laughed. The odds were impossible. What about Myra 7? She asked. How many people are down there? 40,000 civilians, Commander. Miners and their families. There is no way to evacuate them in time. Closed her eyes for a moment. 40,000 people. Men, women, children, they were counting on her. They did not know it yet, but their lives were in her hands. Commander said, we are receiving a message from the Helix fleet. Put it through. The screen changed. An alien face appeared. It had scales like a fish and 4 eyes that moved independently. When it spoke, the translator made its words into simple sentences. Human Commander, I am Fleet Master of the Helix Dominion. You are outnumbered. Your defeat is certain. Surrender now and your people will be treated fairly. Resist and we will destroy your ships and burn your colony. You have 1 hour to decide. The screen went black. The bridge was silent. Could feel her crew looking at her. They wanted her to tell them what to do. They wanted her to save them. She stood up slowly. Open a channel to the Helix fleet. Channel open, Commander. Straightened her uniform. She looked directly at the screen. Fleet Master, this is Commander of the Republic Space Force. I have received your offer of surrender, and I have a counteroffer for you. She paused. Leave now, turn your ships around and go back to your space. If you do this, we will let you live. There was silence. Then, a sound that might have been laughter came through the speakers. Human, you have 4 ships. We have 17. Your fleet is nothing. Your weapons cannot even scratch our shields. Are you mad? Smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had already accepted death. You are right. You have more ships. You have bigger guns. You will probably win this battle, but I promise you this, Fleet Master. I will make you pay for every inch. Every ship I have will take at least 2 of yours before we fall. And when we are gone, others will come. More humans, more ships, and they will make you pay even more. She leaned forward. You can have Myra 7, but you will buy it with blood. So much blood that you will wonder if it was worth it. That is my promise to you. She cut the channel. The bridge was quiet. Then Captain of the Torch spoke through the communication system. Commander, the Torch is with you, all the way. The hammer stands ready, Captain said. The Dauntless will fight to the end, Captain Bora added. Felt tears in her eyes. These were good people, brave people, and most of them would die today. All ships, she said. Battle formation. We protect Myra 7 until our last breath. The 4 frigates moved into position. They were like 4 small dogs facing a pack of wolves. There was no chance of winning, but they would fight anyway. The Helix fleet attacked. The battle lasted 6 hours. 6 hours of fire and death and destruction. The humans used every trick they knew. They hid behind asteroids. They aimed for weak points in the enemy shields. They used their smaller size to move faster than the big Helix ships. The Dauntless was the first to fall. Captain Bora rammed her dying ship into a Helix cruiser, destroying both vessels. The Hammer went next. Captain fired every weapon he had until his ship exploded. He took 2 enemy ships with him. The Torch lasted longer. Captain was clever. She used the planet's gravity to swing around and attack from behind. She destroyed 3 ships before a missile found her reactor. Watched her friends die one by one. She kept fighting. Her ship was burning, half her crew was dead, but she kept fighting. Finally, there was only the Unbroken left, and it was barely able to move. Commander said his face was covered in blood from a head wound. Reactor is critical. We have maybe 2 minutes. Looked at the screen. There were still 3 Helix ships left. They were damaged but alive. She made her choice. All hands abandon ship. Everyone get to the escape pods. Commander, what about you? Asked. Someone has to drive. She smiled at him. Go, that is an order. The crew ran to the pods, stayed in her chair. She aimed her broken ship at the largest Helix vessel. She opened a channel. Fleet Master, are you still alive? I am here, human. You fought well, better than I expected, but it is over. Surrender now and I will let your escape pods go. Do you know who Admiral is? Asked. There was surprise in his voice. How do you know that name? We listen, we learn. He warned your council not to fight us. They did not listen. She pushed the engines to maximum. Her ship began to move toward the Helix flagship. Tell your council something for me. Tell them they should have listened too. Understood what was happening. No, stop, we can negotiate. Laughed. It was the same laugh that Captain had given months ago. The laugh of someone who was about to die and did not care. Goodbye, Fleet Master. The Unbroken hit the Helix flagship at full speed. Both ships exploded in a ball of fire that lit up the sky above Myra 7. The battle was over. 4 human ships had destroyed 14 Helix vessels. The 3 survivors limped home to tell the tale. And on Myra 7, 40,000 people looked up at the sky and cried. They cried for the heroes who had saved them. They cried for Commander, who had given everything. And somewhere in a dark office far away, Admiral heard the news and closed his eyes. The war had begun, and it would only get worse. Part 3, The Doctrine of Ruin. Admiral sat alone in his office. The lights were dim. The only sound was the quiet hum of his computer. He was watching the battle recordings from Myra 7 for the 20th time. 4 ships. The humans had only 4 ships, and they had destroyed 14 of his best warships. He watched Commander's final charge again and again. He watched her ship fly straight into the Helix flagship. He listened to her last words. Tell them they should have listened to. She had known his name. She had known about the council meeting. The humans had been listening all along. Felt cold, not from the air but from fear. A message appeared on his screen. It was from Fleet Master. He was one of the 3 survivors of the battle. His ship was badly damaged, but he was alive. Opened the message. His face appeared. He looked different than before. The confidence was gone from his eyes. Now there was only fear. Admiral said, I need to speak with you, privately. What I saw at Myra 7 has changed everything I believed about war. Replied immediately. They met an hour later in a secure room where no one could hear them. Walked in slowly. His scales had turned pale, his hands were shaking. He sat down heavily across from. "Tell me what happened," said. Was quiet for a long moment, then he began to speak. "I have fought many battles, Admiral. I have seen brave soldiers and cowardly ones. I have seen warriors fight to the death and others surrender to save themselves. But I have never seen anything like the humans." He leaned forward. They knew they could not win. They knew from the first moment that they were going to die, but they did not run. They did not beg. They attacked with everything they had. And when their ships were destroyed, when they were burning, when any other species would have surrendered, they aimed their dying vessels at us and kept coming. His voice dropped to a whisper. The captain of the Dauntless was dead. Her bridge was destroyed, but her ship still flew into my cruiser because some crew member, some ordinary soldier, took the controls and finished what his captain started. Do you understand, Admiral? They do not stop. Even in death, they do not stop. Nodded slowly. I tried to warn the council. I know I did not believe you. I thought you were afraid. I thought you had grown old and weak. Looked down at his hands. I was wrong. I was so wrong. Stood up and walked to his computer. There is more. I have been studying the humans since my encounter with that colony ship. I have read their history. I have analyzed their wars. And I have found something that explains everything. He brought up a file on the screen. It was a human military document. The humans have a name for their approach to war. They call it the doctrine of mutual ruin. It was created over 500 years ago when they still lived on only one planet. Back then, they built weapons that could destroy their entire world. Bombs that could kill billions of people in seconds. Looked confused. Why would anyone build such weapons? What could you gain by destroying everything? That is exactly the point, said. They did not build those weapons to win wars. They built them to make sure that if they lost, their enemies would lose too. The idea is simple. If attacking me means that you will also be destroyed, you will not attack me. It is not about winning. It is about making sure that no one wins. Showed the human phrase written in their strange symbols. They have a saying, if we burn, you burn with us. They teach this to their soldiers. They believe it in their hearts. Victory is not the goal. Making their enemies suffer is the goal. Sat back in his chair. His face was pale. This is madness. No, said. This is survival. Think about it. The humans are a young species. They are small. They have few ships and fewer resources. If they fought like us, they would lose every war. So they changed the rules. They made war so terrible, so costly, that no one would want to fight them. He pointed at the screen. Look at the numbers from Myra 7. They lost 4 ships. We lost 14. They lost maybe 2,000 people. We lost over 10,000. In any normal calculation, we won that battle. We hold the planet. We have more ships left. But it does not feel like victory, said quietly. No, it feels like we made a terrible mistake, and that is exactly what the humans want. They want us to question whether this war is worth fighting. They want us to count our dead and wonder how many more will die. They want us to look at the price of victory and decide it is too high. Was silent for a long time. Finally, he spoke. What do we do now? The council will not stop. They believe one battle does not change anything. They will send more ships, more soldiers. And the humans will kill more of them, said. And more, until one side has nothing left. That is how this war will end. Not with victory, with exhaustion, with ruin, with 2 broken empires staring at each other across a field of graves. He walked to the window and looked out at the stars. I have studied the humans' history. They had a war once between 2 groups on their planet. It lasted 4 years. Millions of soldiers died. Entire cities were destroyed. And do you know what happened at the end? What? Nothing changed. The borders were almost the same as before. The problems that started the war were still there. Millions died for nothing. And the humans learned something from that war. They learned that sometimes there is no winner. Sometimes everyone just loses. Turn back to face. That is what we are facing. A species that has already learned the hardest lesson of war. A species that knows that some fights cannot be won. And instead of giving up, they decided to make sure their enemies cannot win either. Stood up, his legs were unsteady. I will go to the council. I will tell them what you have told me. Maybe they will listen. Shook his head sadly. They will not listen. They are too proud. They believe our numbers will save us. They do not understand that against the humans, numbers mean nothing. Then what do we do? Looked old, tired, defeated. We watch our empire burn, and we remember that I warned them. I told them not to fight the humans, and they did not listen. Left the room without another word. Stayed by the window, looking at the stars. Somewhere out there, the humans were preparing. They were building ships, training soldiers, making plans. And they were waiting. Not waiting to win. Waiting to make sure that if they fell, the Helix Dominion fell with them. The doctrine of ruin had begun. Part 4. The Human Admiral. Admiral was 67 years old. His hair was white like snow. His face was covered with lines from years of hard decisions. He had been a soldier for 40 years. He had fought in 3 wars. He had lost friends, ships, and sometimes hope, but he had never lost a battle. Now he stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, the largest ship in the human fleet. Around him, 300 warships waited in formation. They were the best the Republic had. Every ship had a crew of veterans. Every captain was ready to die. Looked at the stars through the window. Somewhere in the darkness, the Helix fleet was coming. Intelligence said they had 500 ships. It was the largest force they had ever assembled. Admiral, Captain said. She was his second in command. She was young, only 35, but she had proven herself in a dozen battles. The fleet is ready. All ships report full combat status. Nodded. Good. What about the civilians? Evacuation of the border colonies is 80% complete. The last transports will leave within 6 hours. And if the Helix arrive before then? His face was hard. Then we buy them time, sir, whatever it costs. Smiled slightly. That was the answer he expected. That was the human answer. An alarm sounded on the bridge. Lieutenant, the sensor officer, looked up with wide eyes. Admiral Fold space signatures detected. Multiple contacts. They are here. The stars in front of them began to shimmer. Then, like ghosts appearing from nothing, the Helix fleet emerged. Ship after ship after ship. Counted them on the screen. 100, 200, 300. The final count was 487 ships. Almost 500 against 300. The odds were not good, but had faced worse. Open a channel, he said calmly. Channel open, Admiral. The screen changed. An alien face appeared. This one was different from the others had seen in the recordings. Older, more experienced. His scales had the dull color of age and his 4 eyes moved slowly, carefully. Human Admiral, the alien said. I am commander of the 3rd Grand Fleet of the Helix Dominion. You are surrounded. Your fleet is smaller than mine. You cannot win this battle. Did not respond immediately. He took his time. He sat down in his command chair and crossed his legs. Commander, he said finally, before we begin, I want to tell you a story. Seemed surprised. A story? We are about to fight and you want to tell stories. This is an important story. It will help you understand what is about to happen. Was quiet for a moment. Then he made a gesture that might have been curiosity. Speak then, I will listen. Nodded. 300 years ago, my ancestors lived on a small piece of land on Earth. It was called the Korean Peninsula. It was not a big place, not powerful, just a small country surrounded by larger ones. He leaned back in his chair. One day, a great empire from a nearby island decided they wanted our land. They invaded with a huge army. They had better weapons, more soldiers, every advantage. Our people were farmers and fishermen. We had almost nothing. And you lost, said. No, sighs were hard. We won. Made a sound of confusion. How? You said they were stronger. They were, but we did not fight to win. We fought to survive. We hid in the mountains. We attacked at night and disappeared before morning. When they burned our cities, we let them burn. When they took our food, we starved ourselves and poisoned what we could not take. We made every day of occupation a nightmare for them. Stood up slowly. The Empire won every battle. They controlled every city. On paper, they had already won the war. But they could not keep what they had taken. Every soldier they sent to guard a village was killed in the night. Every supply convoy was ambushed. Every general who declared victory was dead within a month. He walked closer to the screen. After years of this, the Empire gave up. Not because we defeated their army. We could never do that. They gave up because they realized there was nothing left worth taking. We had burned our own homes rather than let them have them. We had destroyed our own crops rather than feed their soldiers. We had turned our entire country into a grave. Was silent. That is what humans do, Commander. We do not fight to win. We fight to make sure you cannot win either. You can defeat my fleet today. Maybe, but I promise you this. For every ship of mine you destroy, you will lose 2 of yours. And when you reach our worlds, you will find them empty. The people will be gone. The resources will be destroyed. You will have nothing but ash and bones. His voice grew cold. So yes, you have more ships. Yes, you might win this battle. But ask yourself, Commander, is it worth it? How many of your soldiers will die today? How many will die tomorrow? And at the end, what will you have gained? There was a long silence. His 4 eyes blinked slowly. When he spoke, his voice was different, quieter. Admiral, I have studied your species. I have read about the battle at Myra 7. I know what your commander did. I know about the doctrine of mutual ruin. He paused. I did not want this war. I argued against it in our military council. Like Admiral, I warned them that you were different, that you would not fight like other species. Then why are you here? Asked. Because I am a soldier. I follow orders. The council commands and I obey. His voice was heavy with something that might have been sadness. But I will make you an offer, Admiral, a personal offer from one old soldier to another. I am listening. Withdraw your fleet. Leave this space. Let us take the border worlds without a fight. In exchange, I give you my word that no civilians will be harmed. We will take the planets, but we will let the people go. Was quiet for a long moment. Captain looked at him with worry in her eyes. Some of the bridge crew held their breath. Finally shook his head. No. Seemed genuinely confused. Why? You cannot win. I am offering you a way to save your people without dying. Because if I run today, you will come for more tomorrow. If I give you these worlds without a fight, you will think we are weak. And you will keep coming, planet after planet, system after system, until there is nothing left. Stood straight, his old body seemed to grow stronger. I am not here to win, Commander. I am here to teach you a lesson. The same lesson my ancestors taught that empire 300 years ago. The lesson is this. You can take from us, but we will make you pay such a price that you will wish you had never tried. He raised his hand. All ships, battle stations. We fight for humanity. We fight for those who cannot fight. And we show these invaders what it means to face human beings in war. The channel closed. The battle began. And across the void of space, Admiral watched from far away, already knowing how this would end. Not with victory for either side. With fire and blood and the screams of the dying. With 2 fleets destroying each other because neither knew how to stop. The humans had warned them. They should have listened. Part 5, The Testament of Admiral. The war lasted 3 years. When it ended, the Helix Dominion was broken. 60% of their fleet was destroyed. 12 colony worlds were dead, burned by their own weapons turned against them. The economy was in ruins. The people were tired of death. The humans had suffered too. They had lost half their ships, millions of their people were dead, entire cities had been destroyed, but they were still standing, still fighting, still refusing to give up. In the end, it was the Dominion that broke first. Admiral stood in the same council chamber where he had given his warning 3 years ago, but everything was different now. The 9 council members were gone. Some had died in the war. Others had been removed by angry citizens. The one who had laughed its warning had been killed by a mob when the news of the Third Fleet's destruction reached the capital. New leaders sat in the chamber now. They were tired, scared. They looked at with respect that had come too late. Admiral, the new High Counselor said, "The humans have accepted our request for peace talks. They want to meet on neutral ground. We want you to represent the Dominion." Almost laughed. "Me, you ignored my warnings. You started this war against my advice, and now you want me to end it." "You were right." The counselor's voice was quiet. "You were right about everything. The humans fought exactly as you said they would. They did not surrender. They did not break. They made us pay for every planet in blood." He looked at the floor. "We should have listened. We did not. And now we need someone who understands these humans, someone who can negotiate peace without losing what little we have left." Was silent for a long time, then he nodded slowly. "I will go, but not for the Council, not for the Dominion. I will go because too many have already died, on both sides." The peace talks were held on a small moon at the edge of neutral space. Brought a small team. The humans brought their own. When walked into the meeting room, he saw Admiral for the first time. The human was old, older than expected. His white hair was thin, his face was covered with wrinkles, but his eyes were sharp, clear. They were the eyes of a warrior. Had read about the battle at the frontier, had lost 150 ships that day, but he had destroyed 280 Helix vessels. And when the battle was over, when both fleets were burning, it was the Helix commander who had called for retreat. They sat across from each other at a simple table. Their teams stood behind them. The room was quiet. Admiral said, his voice was calm, respectful, "I have heard much about you. They say you warned your council not to fight us." "I did, they did not listen." Nodded slowly. "I am sorry for that, not for us. For you, it must be hard to watch your people make a mistake that you tried to prevent." Felt something strange. Was this human showing him sympathy after everything that had happened? "I have studied your species," said. "I have read your history, I have watched your wars. I thought I understood you, but there is something I still do not understand." "Ask." "How do you do it? How do you fight the way you do? Other species, when they face certain death, they surrender. They choose to live even as prisoners, but your people, they fight until the end. They die laughing. They turn their own ships into weapons. Why?" Was quiet for a moment, then he leaned forward. "Admiral, my people have a saying. It is not the size of the dog in the fight, but the size of the fight in the dog. Do you understand what that means?" "I think so. We are a small species. Our planet tried to kill us for millions of years. Ice ages, diseases, disasters. Everything in nature wanted us dead, but we survived, not because we were the strongest, not because we were but because we refused to stop fighting." He smiled slightly. "That is what we are. We are the species that does not know when to quit. When everything is against us, when there is no hope, when logic says we should give up, something inside us says no. Something says fight. Something says if we must die, then we will die on our feet, not on our knees." Understood. Finally, he understood. "You are not reasonable," he said quietly. Laughed. It was a warm sound, not cruel, not mocking, just the laugh of an old man who had heard a good joke. "No, we are not reasonable. We are human." The peace treaty took 3 weeks to negotiate. In the end, the Dominion gave up all the territory they had taken. They paid reparations for 80 years. They accepted limits on their military. It was a harsh peace, but knew it could have been worse, much worse. The humans had the power to destroy what was left of the Dominion. They could have taken revenge for all the death and destruction, but they did not. When asked why, the human admiral gave him a simple answer. We fight hard, we fight to the end, but we do not fight forever. When the war is over, it is over. We do not need to destroy you, we just needed to make sure you never tried to destroy us. Returned home a changed person. He retired from the military. He spent his remaining years writing. He wanted future generations to understand what had happened, to learn from the mistakes of the council. On his final day, alone in his study, he wrote his last words. I told them not to fight the humans. I showed them the evidence. I explained the danger. I begged them to listen. They did not. Now the Dominion is a shadow of what it was. Our fleet is gone. Our wealth is spent. Our pride is broken. All because we could not believe that a species so young, so small, could be so dangerous. But here is what I want future generations to remember. The humans are not our enemies. They never wanted this war. They were happy living in their small corner of the galaxy. We attacked them. We forced them to fight. And they did what they have always done. They survived. If you ever meet the humans, do not fear them. Do not hate them. Respect them. Trade with them. Learn from them. They have much to teach us about survival, about courage, about the power of refusing to give up. But most importantly, whatever you do, do not fight them. They do not know how to lose. Admiral closed his book. He looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, the humans were rebuilding, growing, spreading across the galaxy. And they would remember this war. They would remember Myra 7. They would remember Commander and Admiral and all the others who had died. But they would not seek revenge, because that was not who they were. They were fighters, but they were not destroyers. They were human. And the galaxy would never forget. The end.